Welcome to my third Pittsburgh Steelers NFL mock draft. The NFL draft is less than a month away, and the Pittsburgh Steelers still have some major needs left on the roster, and this draft class could really help that. However, this mock draft is going to be a little bit different than the last two that I already did. The first mock draft I did took offensive tackle in the first round, the second one was cornerback, and this one will be center, and going needs after that based off value per pick. But before we get into this draft, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and you can get updated with everything Pittsburgh Steelers throughout the NFL draft. I'm covering all, every new addition, everything like that, all the rumors. Also, like the video. Let's get right back into the draft. And without further ado, round 1, pick number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jackson Powers Johnson. So, Jackson Powers Johnson, he's an offensive center from Oregon. He stands at 6'3" and he weighs 328 pounds. His arm length is 32 1/4 inches, his hand size being 9 7/8 inches. And he was a 4-star recruit out of high school and all Pac-12 player in 2023. So, Jackson Powers, he is ranked the top center in this year's NFL draft. And the Pittsburgh Steelers' biggest need on the roster, many people could say it is center because they have no centers on the roster as of right now. They have guards who could play center and people out of position, but they have no real center on the roster. So picking a center early in this year's draft, whether it be round 1, round 2, it's a need for the team, and they have to be a player that could play and be ready right away. And Jackson Power Johnson is a player that could do that. JPJ. So now we would have 2 JPJs on the roster. Other than Joey Porter Jr., Jackson Powers Johnson. So Jackson Powers Johnson is an NFL-ready center who showcases the size, athleticism, and awareness to be an anchor on the team's offense line. And his strengths is his athleticism, his hand use, and his physical temperament. His concerns, however, is his lack of length at the center spot in terms of his hands and arm length, but also his concern is some of his quickness. However, some of the good things he does in terms of film and what you see on it is he is one of the breakout stars of this college football season, and he emerged as one of the best centers in all of college football. Powers Johnson was a 4-star recruit out of high school, like I said, who contributed in a reserve role in his first 2 seasons at the guard position, mainly playing right guard. Powers Johnson, however, stepped in the starting lineup this season at center as he replaced his current Denver Broncos player, Alex Forsyth. And he solidified kind of the Ducks' offense line once he was plugged in at that center spot and given the starting role. Looking at JPJ, he is a very good size for the position and is an outstanding athlete in terms of power and getting movement. However, quickness is an issue. In the run game, Powers Johnson, he flashes excellent athleticism and excels in zone-based running scheme. He works very well laterally and is outstanding with his footwork and angles to create gaps for his running back to get open looks and just burst through the hole. He displays really good power overall, and he kind of drives the defender back and gets to the second level very nicely. So he has a hat on hat type of mentality. Once he gets his hands on you, he is overpowering you. Powers Johnson has a relentless motor and also plays the type of physicality you want for an offense lineman, and specifically at the center spot, and someone the Pittsburgh Steelers usually look at in terms of offensive line talent. He consistently plays through the whistle, and he doesn't pick up penalties because he does that. He just plays through the whistle and never stops until the whistle is blown. Powers Johnson is outstanding at working in space, as he is an extremely conditioned and coordinated big man. He can land on moving targets, and he is quick enough to get out wide zone and screens. But you wouldn't say his quickness is a benefit. Even though he is quick enough to do it, he still kind of struggles with kind of agility and things of that nature. But in the most part, he's a really good center in open space. In the passing game, Powers Johnson shows above average anchor in terms of putting his foot in the ground and being able to stop bull rushers. He lacks length, however, and will allow defenders to win with the chest plate at times, but his edges will get exposed at times as well when facing top end interior rushers because he's not as quick off of the snap. Even though he is quick out in space, off of the snap is something that he needs to work on. So, even though he doesn't lack strength because of his arm length, sometimes he does get overpowered. Powers Johnson is highly cerebral player and someone who makes the calls up front, and he's able to pick apart a defense and just makes the game-winning plays in order to help your team win. He's kind of the captain of the team, and we all know the Steelers usually have the center call out what they're seeing from the defense linemen, making shifts, calling blitzes, and things of that nature. Even though Russell Wilson's down the team, the center does that a lot for the Steelers, and that's something Powers Johnson did a lot when he watches tape. So, JPJ, he's a player who you want to build your offensive line around, and the Pittsburgh Steelers get that in round one. Someone with passion and love for the game, and it's evident on tape. So the Pittsburgh Steelers get a starter and someone who could be a star player for the team for many years to come, decade plus, in Jackson Powers Johnson, round 1, pick 20. So, moving over to the second round pick the Pittsburgh Steelers have, round 2, pick number 51. The Pittsburgh Steelers select cornerback Mike Sainristil, cornerback out of Michigan. So, looking at cornerback, it's a very big need for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and especially someone who could play the nickel package and someone who could be that slot kind of cornerback. So, Sainristil, he's not a big corner. He stands at 5'9.5 inches, weighs 182 pounds, his arm length being 30 7/8 inches, hand size being 8 1/2 inches. His accomplishments are all Big Ten first team in 2023, All-America first team in 2023, and a 2-time team captain. So he's someone who could come in and be the starter at nickel right away for the Steelers. I would say outside cornerback is a need for the team, but it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers really like what Dante Jackson brings based off of Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin's interviews. So it looks like JPJ and Dante Jackson will be the outside cornerbacks, with Trice coming back being the third, and obviously Rush being the fourth. So they still need a slot cornerback. And ever since kind of Mike Hilton left to the Bengals, Cameron Sutton, he was a good kind of slot cornerback, but then he turned to outside cornerback when the Steelers needed him to play that. So they really haven't had someone who could be a blitzer from the cornerback spot and someone who could play in the dime and at the nickel spot. And now they get that with Sainristil. He is a talented nickel cornerback with a wide receiver background that shows his ability to make plays on the football. So that means his strengths are great ball skills, relentless motor and effort, route recognition, and just kind of a scrappy, competitive nature towards him. His concerns, however, are like I said, he's an undersized cornerback, functional strength, and also kind of transitions in man coverage aren't as well as in zone coverage. Since he is a cornerback who has the background as a wide receiver, his IQ for the defensive position is very key in the way he plays, because he knows what the offense player is going to do, and he's able to read route concepts and kind of jump it off of the line of scrimmage, and just being able to play the ball in the air very nicely. And he's a player who has a career of 26 starts at the cornerback spot under his belt over the last 2 seasons. So he has had great value of play at a high level at that spot, even though he was transitioning from a wide receiver. And his ability to blitz off the edge and just being a very fast, quick player is someone who the Pittsburgh Steelers should be looking at, because he is very good at closing and kind of burst and speed, especially in kind of short areas. And he has very soft hands because of that wide receiver background. And we all know the Pittsburgh Steelers love playmakers in their secondary, some people who could be ball lurkers, and that's someone that Sainristil is. However, his concerns, like I said, is because he still is kind of a project in terms of playing the cornerback spot. In terms of long-term value, he is more of a zone coverage type of guy. He isn't a man coverage guy, someone who's going to follow you and be that guy to play in man coverage. He works better as a zone coverage person who could read the play. But in man coverage, he kind of struggles. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, we all know they love playmakers, and that's who they get with Sanders still, round 2, pick number 51. Now, moving over to the 3rd round pick the Pittsburgh Steelers have. The last pick I'm going to do in this mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers pick round 3, pick number 84, Ricky Parcel. Ricky Parcel, he was a staple in my last mock draft in the 3rd round as well, and he's someone the Pittsburgh Steelers have met with at the wide receiver spot. He stands at 6'1", 189 pounds, arm length being 30 7/8 inches, his hand size being 9 1/4 inches. His accomplishments is that he was SEC first team academic honor roll back in the 2022-2023 season, and also in 2022 he's a Pac-12 all-conference honorable mention. So Ricky Parcel, he's someone the Pittsburgh Steelers have met with at the wide receiver spot, and someone who fits the bill at what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. He's a receiver who could line up both outside and inside, and he's a player who's a really fast kind of burst, catch in traffic, high IQ, versatile alignment type of player. But the main thing he kind of lacks is his great separation in terms of beating people vertically. Even though he is fast, he's more faster side to side than he is straight up and down. So he also struggles with press man, but we know the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of don't look at that in terms of the wide receiver spot because they have other people who could be that player to create separation in terms of George Pickens, who has gotten really better at that spot. So obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers in college, George Pickens wasn't a guy who was going to create separation on his routes. He was basically like Parcel, someone who's a catch and traffic type of player, and he's gotten so much better at route running. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, what is coaching for? Route running and things of that nature, the specifics of the game. So obviously they believe they could coach up a wide receiver, and hopefully they could do that with Parcel, making him a better kind of route runner and having him create separation on his routes. So Ricky Parcel is kind of like a George Pickens type of player, someone who is going to play in the slot, outside, whatever you need him to do, and be someone with a big body receiver who can make catches in traffic. Just a sure-handed player. And throughout his tenure at the University of Florida, he kind of established himself as the go-to option for his team. Someone who could be throwing the ball any situation and just know that he's going to be relied on to make the plays. And he has multiple releases and can win with power, speed, tempo, anything at the line. And like I said, he's more of a route runner side to side in terms of getting open on slants, digs, things of that nature. Not necessarily going to beat you over the top. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown to be reluctant in throwing the deep ball. Hopefully that comes back with Russell Wilson. But Parcel is someone who could fit the bill with the Steelers as a need at the wide receiver spot. And it is a need at the wide receiver spot because George Pickens, Kwon Alexander are really the only two options right now on the team at the wide receiver position. So picking a receiver early in this year's draft is bound to happen unless they sign someone in free agency really soon. So they get someone in the 3rd day. I won't be surprised even if a wide receiver is picked even earlier than the 3rd round by the Steelers. But he's someone who could come in and be a starter right away. And Ricky Parcel is the pick at 84 in round 3 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, just recapping the draft really quickly. Round 1, the Steelers get the center of the future. Jackson Powers-Johnson, best center in this year's draft, hands down. Mike Sanders still at cornerback in round 2, the starter at nickel for the team, and someone who could be there for the next many years, someone who fits the bill for the Steelers in terms of what they look for at the nickel spot. Also, pick number 84, Ricky Parcel, wide receiver of the future to go next to Kwon Alexander, George Pickens. Those are going to be the 3 tandems at the wide receiver spot, and the Pittsburgh Steelers fill almost every single need right out the gate in the first 3 picks. With that being said, that's the end of this mock draft, As we get further down the line, next week, week after that, closer to the draft, the mock drafts, I will go into other rounds, but for now, it's only the first 3 picks, and this one was based off picking a center in the first round. Like I said, do I want them to pick center in the first round? No, but I did this mock draft based off if we picked a center, what would the next picks be? So let me know your thoughts on the comments below about this mock draft. Do you like the picks? If you don't, let me know your mock draft down in the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, so you can get notified with everything Pittsburgh Steelers. Not just draft news, I will cover everything the draft, but also everything through free agency I already covered, I'll continue to do so, and just every news, rumor, update, film breakdowns, everything like that. Turn on notifications, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.